But here's what he did.
Rhyme it. Do you know how to rhyme it? Oh, please just rhyme it.
Then he really gets into it.
Do you know how to rhyme it?
Yes,
Of course, we will.
you don't even have to think
rocking
about
it. So let's rhyme it today. Rhyme it.
Yes.
We are gonna rhyme it. Just rhyme
That's
it.
where he just rammed it. I like that.
Everybody,
I'm not going to remember any of it.
That's good. That's the way to go.
All over the Rams today and rhyme it.
I mean, now he's like on his feet.
How are you guys?
Whose
Wow.
Rhyme it.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Rams Brothers the Pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, we are 1-1. We're back in action. We sweated it out, but we're alive. How are you?
I'm good. You know, after I kind of let the stink of that game settle over me and rest in my nostrils for an entire day, I feel much better about it, and I'm happy that we're not one of those 0-2 teams like the sorry Bengals.
I got to tell you, around the league yesterday, it was a scary Sunday. Sunday scaries. If you had a lead, nothing felt like it was guaranteed. Nothing felt like the game was over at any point. Didn't matter if it was 21 points, if it was 28 points. Tua Tagovailoa was throwing 6 touchdowns. The Bengals lost to the Cowboys in Cooper Rush. There were so many situations yesterday that happened that we were just so thankful the same situation didn't reciprocate into the Rams' backyard. There was a pretty good chance there towards the end that it could have happened. The final score 31-27. Rams advanced to 1-1. I mean, my ass was sweating towards the end. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I had to stop myself from going overboard because I saw, looking at the score at, just the score, I know that they blocked the punt. I mean, the punt block almost set me off. But then they do the really smart move of that cheeky safety. And then you give the punter some legitimate time so he can just have a kickoff and not a punt, which I thought was genius. We'll probably get into that later. But I was upset. I was upset for Rams minus 10 bettors because that should have been a sure thing. And that safety ruined my Knicks pick tease, which is crazy. It's like Vegas called it in and they were like, we can't let Knicks picks do well. So I felt okay.
Yeah, that's good. Well, good transition real quick. Before we jump into the episode, this episode is sponsored by BetOnline, one of our 2 sponsors. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get all of your wagers on all of your favorite sports, contests, and events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, futures, whatever you would like. Head over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join today, and make sure you place your first bet with BetOnline. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV 50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Promo code flashed on your screen. BELIEVE, BLEAV 50.
Nice.
Thanks, Nick.
Well done. Good read.
Thanks. I try. We're going to save the second one for you. But
Popcorn Nick.
Popcorn. Brought me right back to 3rd grade. Let's start right at the top, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Was that a game? I mean, it felt like the Rams were in control for the entire first half. Felt like they were in control in the 3rd quarter. And then about 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter, it got a little bit shaky. It got a little bit hairy. But like we said, came out 31-27 with their first win of the year, improving to 1-1 on the season, but it came with a ton of unnecessary stress. And we're going to start it right off the top with Atlanta. They started with the ball. Arthur Smith has done a really good job throughout his career creating formations that fit his personnel. You saw it with Cordell Patterson. You see it with Kyle Pitts. You see it with Drake London. It's an interesting way to get some of these players involved in the offense. He did it really well in Tennessee when he was the offensive coordinator there, and it worked roughly for 7 years or so. And now the Falcons offense was, I don't want to say it was any type of a threat, but going back to what they did against the Saints and then kind of compiling some of the good things that they did, potentially how they're going to use it and expose the Rams' bend, don't break defense, I thought was pretty intriguing. And they kind of run, Nick, if you remember back to the Baltimore game last year when we watched Tyler Huntley in person, it reminds us a lot of that Baltimore offense where they're essentially in the pistol to get started. Like they run out of 11 personnel, but they'll give off different looks.
It's kind of a college offense. You're going to the strengths of your quarterback, Mariota. So you're going to give him that option to run if everything breaks down.
Bingo. And they disguise things, right? So 11 personnel can be disguised as 21 personnel or 22 personnel. Like they mix things in. They're changing players, they're moving players around in motion. They're changing formations, but the play oftentimes is the same. They'll just move a lot of guys around the line of scrimmage. They'll offset players to make sure that there's somewhat of a different look and then run the same type of play that they're comfortable running. But Nick, to your point, it's RPO, right? It's the pistol offense. It's somewhat of a college offense, but it gives Mariota a lot of optionality to use his legs. And it gives, Atlanta even more optionality in their offense in general, just to be able to give Mariota a second to read the defense, go through his progressions, and then try and dice up the bend, don't break defense in the zone. But over that first possession, Atlanta does all that. They have all these motions, these shifts, these offset players, all of that in the first series just to miss. Younghoe Koo misses a 44-yard field goal.
Right. It's a lot of like smoke and mirrors what the Falcons are going to show you, and I'm impressed by 2 weeks of their offense looking rather dapper. It's just, when the defense is going to put up 30 or like allow the other team to put up like 31 points, you're going to have to come up with a miracle to come back in that game. And they were knocking on heaven's door of a miracle right there. It doesn't get much scarier than that when you're watching your team blow it. I mean, the only way it gets scarier is to watch the Dolphins score 28 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, that is just that's lunacy, right?
But it was trending in that direction.
Yeah,
that's where it gets scary, and we'll get to that. But I want to start off with the good. In the first possession that the Rams had, I felt like the offense was clicking immediately.
Which is rare under this Stafford McVay regime. The scripted plays for whatever reason are some of their worst. So for them to come out and get Robinson the ball so fast definitely made me feel very comfortable. I also missed the entire first Atlanta drive. Yeah, because I was still watching the Dolphins game. I didn't even know that the Rams were on. And then it flashed the thing at the bottom of the screen. And I flipped the channel, and everyone I was watching with was like, "Wait, what happened to the Dolphins?"
That was the big ticket at 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock your time. But I mean, you didn't miss a whole lot in that first possession, like we talked about the way Atlanta likes to run their offense. But Nick, to your point, like the way that they script drives and script series, especially the first series of the game, like I felt like in this situation, right, coming out of the half, coming out in the first quarter after a possession where they got the ball back. That was some of their best series. I felt like when it was scripted, it was simplistic. It was very well designed. Like it's a shame for a guy like Trayman Akram who has to, who leaves the game with an ankle injury on the first play of the game. That's the second time that's happened in 2 weeks where a guy on one of the first plays of the game goes down with almost a season-ending injury. Last week it was Kyron Williams with a high ankle sprain. This week it's Trayman Akram breaks his ankle. It's just season-ending injury, horrible situation. But Alaric Jackson fills in, or you can call him AJ Jackson. If you Google AJ Jackson or Alaric Jackson, the same guy is going to come up. So don't be alarmed if you see both on Twitter. But he came out and held his own, and it's to no surprise because he did that last year against Minnesota. But that's what we were looking for in that first possession. We were making sure that the offense looked like it was well designed, it was sound, it had rhythm to it. It was moving the way that Sean McVay's offense should move the ball. And you need a good offensive line to do that. You need some intricate play calls. You need a little wrinkle in the offense, potentially move a wide receiver to fullback and get a little bit creative with what he's running out of the backfield. I'm not going to name any names, but I want to. Benny Skowronek.
I was going to say fullback Ben Skowronek.
Benny Skowronek coming out playing fullback. I thought he looked good. But like you mentioned, Allen Robinson right off the bat, big crosser for a big gain. And Darrell Henderson, I feel like if he's the lead back, to me, I don't know your opinion on this, but I feel like he looks bigger, stronger, more willing to take on contact. And you got a little bit of a dose of Henderson and Akers in that first series. So kind of what exactly Sean McVay said he was going to do.
Let me speak on this, and I think I speak for a lot of Rams fans when I start talking right here. The Steven Jacksons and the Todd Gurleys and the Darrell Hendersons they have that look. The dreadlocks coming out of the helmet. It just looks so badass. He's a bigger guy. He just is busting through these dudes. Yeah, I think Henderson is running back one. I'd like from what you see right now, people are like, well, what did Cam Akers do to McVay that they're not trusting him? He's not the same back that he was in 2020, unfortunately. That's how these running back situations can go. And Henderson has been this true blue bowling ball that would have been so great paired with a Sony Michel, who's actually out here making plays on another Los Angeles team. So I think you just got to sack up and just be like, look, we're sticking with Henderson and, do a little bit of both, but they're not giving Akers any goal line touches.
Well, there was one series where he had gotten a couple, but to your point, it's mostly Darrell Henderson. Like Darrell Henderson had, I think, 10 carries for 47 yards. Cam Akers had 15 carries for 44 yards. So naturally, Darrell Henderson's more efficient. That perfect 4.7 yards per carry, which is what you want in a bell cow. You think if you give him 10 more carries, he's going to produce another 47 yards and another touchdown. Well, so that's kind of the theory, but it feels like there's somewhat of an obligation to involve Cam Akers.
I think there's less of an obligation to get the running game going under this Stafford-led Rams, where with Goff, I felt like they had to establish it, or he's not going to be able to do, what McVay wants him to do.
Yeah.
There's too much trust between Stafford and McVay because I don't even know, as this is coming out of my mouth, I don't even know if I agree with it, but stick with me. There may be too much trust between these two because Stafford's, he's going to throw these picks when you ask him to throw every single down. And I get it. You want to get down the field fast. You want to score. You want to stomp on this Atlanta team because you are so much better than them. But when you do that, you get these costly mistakes like this. You're given more probabilities in the world for the ball to be turned over.
Yeah.
And Stafford's, he's a gunslinger. He's throwing it in between people's fingers and making great throws, but he's also going to throw it into somebody's hands, which he did. So twice. So I just think you need to establish Henderson as RB1, and you need to truly work on having him be a focal point of this offense this year. Or, bringing in another running back and having a running back by committee, but I just don't know who you can grab right now.
The scary thing is Darrell Henderson's injury history doesn't support him being a bell cow. So if there's any kind of hesitation, you're only giving him 10 carries, you're giving Cam Akers 15. Akers is telling you he's fresher, but there's a longevity factor now involved with Darrell Henderson if you don't bring in somebody else. So you can kind of play devil's advocate on that. But also, I don't know if anybody trusts Matthew Stafford more than Matthew Stafford. Like, as much as Sean McVay believes in him, like Matthew Stafford has this mind where it's almost like he's playing Mario Kart and he gets a star and he's invincible for 30 seconds. Like, he felt like that when he was 12 for 12 in the first half and was just going off and was dicing up the defense and then wanted to take a shot to Tyler Higbee. Like, there are plenty of situations where I think Matthew Stafford trusts in himself, where Sean McVay will give him optionality, where he can go through his progressions. Sure, there were options underneath. Did not have to take a shot to Tyler Higbee in that situation, but that's the kind of player that he is. You kind of got to live and die with it at this point.
That's true. And we will, we will live and die on Stafford's arm.
We sure will.
But Matthew, I just want to say one thing. The star wears off in 15 seconds. That's all you got, buddy. And you can be in first place and you can be cruising. And guess what? Block punt, blue shell.
Sure.
It's the third lap, and you gotta get your ass back in first. And I'll credit to him; he's really good at doing that. So,
it's a good analogy, and I like how you had the time of the star timed out at 15 seconds. It's true. There's an invincibility cloak that wears off when the defense kind of starts to understand what kind of rhythm you're getting into as an offense, right? If you're kind of going through the same progressions. You're finding Cooper Kupp underneath. You're finding Cooper Kupp on the outside. You're looking for Allen Robinson, but you can't find him. There's some tendencies you could pick up on. It's the same way that Bobby Wagner picked up on tendencies when you saw him at the line of scrimmage right before during pre-snap, when he's pointing at players in the backfield and when he's delegating assignments. Those are the same kind of things that you're able to do when you have those kind of players on that side of the ball. So, the combination of being able to do that, diagnosing things. Matthew Stafford can get a little bit better at that, right? I think there's always a little bit of room for improvement with him, but you're always going to go back to what he did last year. So,
right.
for
which is 9 to 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's all it is. It seems like, for the most part, when it needs to be, it seems like it's only Stafford to Kupp. But at the same time, it worked last year, and you could still consider these to be a couple of the first games of the season. It's kind of like their preseason where they're warming up, understanding how Allen Robinson fits into the offense, how Akers and Henderson both fit into the offense, and how this new offensive line is going to kind of come together. So I think there's just more question marks.
Here's what I want to say about last year, right? It did work last year. It did. And I think it's easy to think about the Super Bowl in a tiny box and think about that as the entire year. Yeah. Because in the Super Bowl, OBJ goes down. You got Skoranek, you got your third tight end. So it had to be only Kupp. But leading up to the Super Bowl, they had Woods, they had Van Jefferson, they had OBJ. So I think in a vacuum, it seems like that's all it was, but it was so much more. It was Sony Michel and Henderson, not Akers and Henderson. And I just think if you use that idea that the teams are going to think that it's just the Stafford Kupp show, you can have some really interesting, schemes, which is what they tried to do at least later in the game. Yeah. Kupp does like in the fourth quarter for a crucial first down. This would have been Kupp does like a little out route and then he cuts back and he pulls 3 defenders on him. Skoranek is wide open. Stafford misses him on the throw. So I don't maybe that's something to do with how Skoranek is like wide receiver 4 and he doesn't have that kind of connection with him yet. But if you can work on top of that and use that Kupp mentality that he's going to attract all these people and not force it into double coverage, then you have something that can really explode.
Yeah. Well, that's what you'll see. And I think in the second series, I thought was a really good example of that, how they'll use Akers and Henderson as pass catchers out of the backfield. Then you saw Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp as pass catchers out of the backfield. If you add on Van Jefferson, who, by the way, Nick, next week plays his dad's team. Remember how much Van Jefferson likes to own his father, who is, I think, the wide receivers coach on the Arizona Cardinals. So he usually goes off if he's healthy. It's a good opportunity to open up the field. And the way that this offense is currently built, you want to be able to stack as many pass catchers on the line of scrimmage as you possibly can while they still have other qualities where they can contribute to the offense, like Cooper Kupp and Ben Skoranek and Tyler Higbee all contribute to the offense in the run game too. So there's kind of like a hybrid thing that's happening with some of these players. But I feel like early on in the game, you kind of had the offense that you were expecting to see the next evolution of the Super Bowl offense without Van Jefferson, without Odell Beckham Jr., creativity, stacking players on the line of scrimmage, having 8 guys on the line of scrimmage and getting out of 11 personnel. Those are all things that we saw in the first half of this game. That's encouraging. And then you add on Van Jefferson, you add on potentially Odell Beckham Jr., and we're right back to where we were. So it's kind of a tough evaluation, I think, at this point, but it's also fair to nitpick a little bit, right? If you feel like it's the Stafford and Kupp show, probably because at times in big games and big situations, that's what's been successful for them. And if it's, if that's what they feel most comfortable going to, it usually works to success. Or Stafford will miss Kupp by inches. He missed him by inches on a big 4th down play or a big 3rd down play in the 3rd quarter. Cooper Kupp gets the ball knocked out of his arm late in the game. And that's like a freak accident. He fumbles maybe 1 time a year. So I don't know. I'm confident in the way that they're able to put the offense together from week to week. I'm confident in the way they're able to adjust, but it still feels like they're missing some pieces, which is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That Kupp thing, that's part of the knocking on the door of a miracle. That guy's not going to fumble that ball.
Sure.
Could be worse, though. You could be Hunter Renfrow and fumble twice and blow it for your team.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that's everybody likes to compare him to Cooper Kupp. I'll tell you what, he's one fumble worse, at least one fumble worse.
Yeah, I'm way behind you.
I mean, and it's hard to even kind of harp back on that. Like in that first half of the game, the Rams were in a situation where it was 21-3, and it was right after the Jacoby Durant interception that bounced off of Cordell Patterson's face, where he almost took it back for a pick six. That is a situation where you see a defense too. It wasn't just the offense in this game; it was the defense in the first half too, and they also kind of came together in the second half late in the game. But I mean, they were in a situation where Sean McVay was actively calling timeouts to keep the defense on the field for potentially another big play, another pick six, and Ramsey almost had one with 7 seconds left on the clock. Like that's the kind of confidence to be able to force a turnover. To be able to put your foot on the gas and step on their throat on offense. Like you want to be able to do both of those things on both sides of the ball. And they're not, a one-sided football team when the offense is successful. Right. So I think going into the half, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. I mean, you're feeling essentially crazy confident going into the tunnel. It's more just like completing the game, maybe putting your thumb on them a little more and just kind of taking them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going into halftime, since it is halftime, why don't we talk about our second sponsor?
Let's hear it.
This one's actually really rad. There's a new water brand out there, and I've heard of it. I'm a big fan of it myself. It looks like a tall boy, but it's actually just mountain spring water that's available in still, sparkling, and 3 flavors. I'm trying to act like you've been drinking sparkling water before you came out here. It's liquid death. There's something about drinking water out of a can. It's insanely refreshing. Fool your mouth, fool your grandmother. Give it to your daughter in a plastic bag. Have them catching you drinking an ice cold can of liquid death while they assume it's just a beer you snuck out of the garage, smoking some doobies with your cousins. Go get liquid death at your local Whole Foods, Ralph's, 7-Eleven, Vons. I got a nice little bodega down the street. I call it 7-Eleven. At a retailer near you, they sell liquid death. And make sure to go to www.liquiddeath.com/LAFB. Get some cool merch. Check it out. Honestly, when I heard that Liquid Death was sponsoring us, I was super stoked because this is a brand that I actually go out of my way to buy because I just love it so much. It's so refreshing. So please drink some Liquid Death. Fool the people who think you're drinking a beer, or just enjoy a nice cold glass of water.
Nothing wrong with that.
Can of water.
Yeah.
Maybe pour it in a glass if you want.
Do whatever you want. Just enjoy Liquid Death the way it's meant to be enjoyed. Refreshing, cold mountain water. Okay, coming out of the tunnel, we feel good, right? They came out on fire, right, with a 10-play, 75-yard drive. Cam Akers was the primary ball carrier coming right out of the half. They converted a really tough 3rd and 1. Cam Akers evaded a pass rusher, was able to evade a tackle. Got
right, that was the really,
had a really nice 7-yard carry within the 20-yard line. So kind of getting some goal line carries. I don't think he's big enough or physical enough to be awarded those goal line carries the same way that Darrell Henderson is. But Stafford also targeted him as a pass catcher in the red zone. I just like when, and maybe this isn't common amongst all fans, but I like when McVay says something and then you actually see it on the field. Right. I like that they're mixing in both players. We talked about this already a little bit, but I like that we're seeing both guys. And that's kind of the way to build your momentum, to open up the pass game, to not feel like it's over and over again. It's not the same thing consistently. You could switch things up and get back to the run game, and both players are capable. But then this is where things got weird, where we went up 28-3. That, first of all, the score.
That's some bad juju right there.
Nobody likes the score whatsoever. 28-3. Everybody's like, "Oh shit!"
Which is funny because
don't want to be on the wrong side of this.
I looked at my friends and I was like, "Hey, this is the same people I watched the Rams-Bucks playoff game with, and they were up 28-3." And I was like, "Oh, I hope they don't blow it like they did then. There's no way. It's the Falcons." And then people are looking at me. They're like, "Why'd you say that, Nick? Why'd you do that? Why did you curse it? You're making this hard on yourself."
Doesn't make any sense why that score. I guess just because of the way it is.
I think now it's like it's
But-
like part of the folklore of football.
Yeah.
That it's like it is very much a important score. So people feel like if you come back from that, you really made it your own, which
That's
is cool.
significant. I mean, it's 4 scores. You're thinking to yourself, this game is
It was
essentially
4 scores and 7 years ago. Wait, how many years ago was that? No, it wasn't 7. It was like 5 years ago.
5, yeah, maybe, if that. Yeah, it was 2016,
I think it was 2017.
17. Well, the Eagles won in 17. It was the year before, I think.
2016.
Yeah, I think it was the year before.
Oh, it's February 5th,
Shanahan's
2017.
Shanahan's last year with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I mean, you don't want to be a part of a game when it gets weird. I mean, if you're a Browns fan yesterday, or you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, or you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, like, you know exactly how that would potentially feel. And in watching some of those other games, I'm just very, very fortunate that we weren't on that side of the ball or that side of the coin. But I mean, when you look at the Falcons, like they go 3 and out on their first series in the third quarter, a total of 0 yards on that drive. They punt. And then on the second play of the drive, the Rams were in play action. And then Stafford tries to force it into a window. Michael Walker makes a great play across the middle for Stafford's second interception. That's where it gets even more scary. The Falcons,
That was the one that really put me on my ass.
well, you're in your own territory, right? You're on essentially your own 30-yard line. You can't make a mistake right there.
Yeah.
That's the worst situation to be in.
Well, and then I think this is as good time as any to bring up Goff Watch, Nick's favorite segment.
Oh, no.
Through 2 games, we should get a nice little sting. Goff Watch. So it's like a little 2-second I
just don't know how many are watching, but proceed.
through 2 games, Matthew Stafford record 1 for 1, 512 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 81.9 RTG. Jared Goff 1 for 1, same record, 471 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, 110 RTG. Just gonna put that to bed right now. Just wanted to bring that up, and I know you guys are gonna be like, it's over. Stop going back on the Instagram and looking at the old pictures of the ex, Nick, and just move on, right?
Yeah.
But I like watching the Lions, and I like keeping up with Goff, and I like that we still won the Super Bowl with Stafford, who is the better quarterback. But it's still cool to see how Goff his journey is coming back up. He is not as bad as everybody thought he was, which was kind of my whole point, and on the same bar as Stafford. But anyway, I digress.
Nobody thought he was that bad. It's just that nobody thought he was good enough to win a Super Bowl. That's the only thing.
Right.
But they've won with worse. Teams have won with worse. In the fourth quarter of this game, before the fourth quarter, the Falcons, they got the ball back. They were back into the pistol. They're running the RPO, players moving during the snap, pulling blockers, the same kind of Falcons mumbo jumbo that we saw from them earlier on in the game. We had lost Ty Hill, lost David Long Jr. I think David Long was kind of coming back and forth into the game. Robert Rochelle and him were rotating as Rochelle wasn't fully healthy. And the Rams give up a touchdown on 28-10. So we're in the fourth quarter now. You're thinking to yourself, 28-10. Allen Robinson gets a huge gain on the first series, starting off the quarter. Stafford tries to go back to him in the end zone. Rams kick a field goal, go up 31-10. All right, now you're up 21 points to the Atlanta Falcons with 12 minutes to go at home. What could possibly go wrong?
Everything. No, I mean, not everything, but pretty close. I mean, Falcons march down the field, score in 4 minutes, right? You're thinking, okay, no problem. People may go back and blame Ramsey for that touchdown, but he was clearly a nickel in the zone, and David Long Jr. was supposed to come down and help. 31-17, still no problem. No problem. I feel fine. I'm just thinking, I don't feel great about our punting situation. This was kind of in the back of my mind, and I watched Hecker actually play bad in the Panthers game too. So I was like, man, these Rams punters, like, what's going on? And then just as I'm thinking that, this ridiculous punt block, like the most replayed, like dudes like flying up and down and then get slammed down. It happens with 5 minutes left. They block the punt and they score, and then they go for this 2-point conversion, and they go 31-25 now. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, all right, 2-point conversion didn't matter because we have them Rams teased at -4. So we're okay.
I know, but even if you go back to that first series in the fourth quarter, like if they just score a touchdown, you keep going Allen Robinson, you don't miss on one of those opportunities. You go up 34-10. And then you're really thinking to yourself, what could possibly go wrong? But now it's 31-25 when it could have potentially been 34-25 with no threat still.
It could have even been higher if Ramsey would have got that pick before the end of the half.
Sure.
Probably easy pick 6 dropped.
Absolutely. But now we're in a 3rd and 4. Like you fast forward, 3rd and 4, you're up 6 points, and Stafford isn't empty. He's got 5 wide receivers split out.
This is the McVay that we know.
I mean, it's 30. Like you absolutely need this play. Perfectly converted pass to Cooper Kupp over the top. I think the only thing that was missing from that play and what happened in the Super Bowl was Stafford not looking directly at Kupp. Like that was almost the exact same play. Across the middle, as easy as pie. Like
sigh of relief is released from my
for
chest.
Half a second. I mean,
wait, hold on.
Knocked out. Allen Robinson misses the recovery, which I mean, he didn't have a great chance at the ball. Ball's flying all over the place, but it's just the most unlucky thing. They're flashing to the owners on the field. The Falcons are celebrating like they won the Super Bowl.
I forgot about the Falcons owner.
He's sitting there like, yeah, like give me a fucking break.
Like a corpse zombie.
Yeah, I mean,
looking like my corpse bride, Tim Burton. But yeah, no, this was my reaction after Kupp called it. I was like, oh, like it was that fast to like immediate heart wreck.
Yeah, and I mean, you can laugh about it now, but like in this moment, it's completely up to the Rams' defense.
Right. This is a much lighter episode than I thought it was going to be, honestly, because this game brought so much panic. I texted you and our dad, and I was like, this game just reeks of 2019 Rams-Bucks, where it was Goff versus Jameis.
Yeah.
And it was just like bad interception off of like bad turnover.
Jameis for 450 yards.
Oh, my God. Yards. And I was just like, this reeks of a loss. Like, I feel gross right now. And then, they recover it. Now it's completely up to the Rams defense and Aaron Donald specifically. A defense who only allowed one legitimate touchdown drive the entire day. But we're dealing with a 25 points on the board and now have to, pin their ears back and like win this game. And they did. It wasn't Jalen Ramsey who capped off the drive. It was Aaron Donald and the pass rush, which was just.
And the only reason why, and I agree with you, but the reason why I put this in here was because when you go back and watch that play, everybody wants to see Jalen Ramsey mossing a receiver. But Jalen Ramsey, I don't know, position-wise, was in a great position to make a play on the ball if Marcus Mariota hadn't airmailed the ball.
That's exactly why I said it. I mean, if that ball is low in the numbers, that's a caught ball. But Aaron Donald gets the pressure through 2 linemen, through a running back, to hit Mariota, to force the ball to go up, to get Ramsey in a position to pick it up and grab.
Yeah, exactly. It's pass rush and timing, right? Because if Mariota is able to scramble around for 2-3 more seconds, somebody else shakes free in the end zone, or they have somebody just crossing, in the middle of the field, can easily catch a ball and go for 25 yards and a score. Like that's the way that you change the complexity of games. So Jalen Ramsey on the sideline screaming, I'm him. Like I'm nervous. Like it's not over. There's still 1 minute and 7 seconds left. And the whole sideline is celebrating because of what Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey were able to do. That's why you pay them. But still a full minute of time that you have to kill. Like I'm looking at the Rams trying to run the clock out with Cam Akers, and then Brandon Powell runs out of the back of the end zone and gives Atlanta 2 points and spoils Nick's teaser. Like that's 31-27 Rams. And
I am fine with that amazing safety call, though. I mean, I'm sitting there. I'm like, that's a thing of genius. That's a Madden play. Like, I don't even know how you come up with that. And then apparently Dean sends me a text, and he was like, by the way, Nick, that was a Ben Skoranek call.
No, it was John Wolford.
Oh, John Wolford. Sorry, the one guy on the team who I like less than Ben Skoranek.
No reason to not like either of those guys.
I have my reasons, and so does Sosa. Me and Sosa can like him just like who we want.
Everybody unanimously right now should like Ben Skoranek more than they like John Wolford for what he just did in this last game. Just
listen to what Wolford did.
Leaving his body on the line, playing fullback. I mean,
Wolford's the one who goes out there and is like, Sean, why don't you try this one on for size? Why don't you have him run through the back of the end zone for safety so our punter doesn't have to punt it? A genius.
Liam Cohn, it's pretty genius. Because
I'm sitting there and I'm like, this punter is screwed. You got to get this guy to kick it from all the way back there.
Yeah, if Wolford and Liam Cohn come together to become Kevin O'Connell, that's fine.
And like, how do you feel about the conservative 3 runs? Like, do you want to go for the first down and end the game, or do you think McVay is just so comfortable with this defense that
I would have been the way that game was going? I would have been comfortable enough with my defense to make a play, and that's exactly what happened. But in that situation, you don't feel like you could do anything right. I think that's the really difficult situation as a play caller to be in, where if you feel like you dial up the number, the play call goes from 9 to 10. And Cooper Kupp's across the middle, converts a 3rd and 4, and the ball pops out. Like, you're in a really tough – and then you try to punt. Like, these are safe plays that the Rams have run 10 out of 10 times successfully. And then on that 11th time, the bonus call, for whatever reason, something was just going wrong, and it was consistent. Like, if you look at the ESPN, I think it's the box score or the play-by-play. So the play-by-play, if you go all the way to the bottom, the last 5 series – ended as follows: blocked punt touchdown, fumble, interception, safety, fumble. Like, that's how the game ended.
Right.
Like,
it just shows, like, if you're really looking at that, shows how great the defense actually was, our defense.
Yeah.
Because they saved our ass, really.
Sure did.
I mean, the offense put up a lot of points. Let's not.
Yeah, you know what the defense did really good? They diagnose and they snuff out the bullshit. Like, they had Bobby Wagner in the second level of defense delegating, like telling defensive backs, telling the 4 that were on the line of scrimmage, like, this is where the play is going. You could shift in this direction. The run's going to go this way. The motion's going that way. Like, there are some key identifiers that Bobby Wagner was picking up. And if you go back and watch the tape, you could see him pointing in different directions to try and put them in a better position to hold this Falcons offense, because they're as gimmicky as they are. They have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Cordell Patterson, all very capable playmakers. So, I mean, it's not the easiest situation to be in as a defense, but because there was so much confidence in what they were capable of doing throughout the entire game, only really truly allowing that 1 touchdown drive over 75 yards. I think the other one was only a 26-yard touchdown drive because Matthew Stafford put him in a terrible position on the interception. So, and then there's the block punt, right? And then the 2-point conversion and the field goal. It wasn't necessarily the defense's fault that they were in the position that they were in, but it required them to step up and do big things. And I think that's where things like pass rush wins, where the best player in football wins, where Jalen Ramsey is saying, I'm him. Like,
I think that's why Raheem Morris gets a game ball as well.
Sure.
And then
Kobe Durant, Coleman Shelton, Ra Morris. Who else?
I thought that was it.
Game ball. That's it.
Yeah. Huh. And me for
how about a Lark
Rams that they should have gotten Sony Michel when he was available.
I'd go Lark Jackson and Nick, obviously, because Nick needs a game ball every week.
I'll take one.
I don't understand why that happens, right? The misery, the stress towards the end of the game, especially when you're at home and you're just not putting your foot on the gas. But again, it wasn't the defense. I think it was just freak accidents in the last 12 minutes that happened in this game that put them in a really awkward position. My fear was they keep flashing across the screen. No team that started 0-2 last year made the postseason. So I'm thinking, oh my God.
That's fine. I was even preparing myself mentally for the loss. I think this team is still really good.
No, but you can't mentally prepare for that loss. Like, look at Bengals fans today. Like, they are getting dragged through the mud. I mean, Joe Burrow's stat lines are being posted as a
honestly, I said this all the entire offseason. One, everybody has a Super Bowl hangover. And two, people were treating the Bengals like they had already won the AFC North this year. And that's a really tough division. They barely got out of it last year. And now they got a first place schedule. Like they're in a very, very tough situation. I said, sell your Bengals stock. Burrow was also just getting all this like crazy hype, like he had won the Super Bowl. So I'm happy that they have come back to planet Earth. But yeah, it's just 0-2 would have been really bad. You needed this win. This is one of the only easy wins on the schedule. And now you got to go into Arizona, which is going to be tough. I thought a lot of people more were going to be selling their Ram stock because of this loss. And that was my original feeling. I was thinking, oh my God, like they should have destroyed this team. Look at what the Bills did on Monday night, 41-7 against Titans, who are supposed to be a good team, right? The Rams should look like that against Atlanta.
Right.
But, fluke stuff happens. Every team has the same salary cap. It's any given Sunday, every single week. And to come out with a win is what's important. And that's what this team was able to do. They were able to turn around and they were able to see all the fluke shit that was going on. And they were able to still walk out with the win. And I feel really confident with this team, 100%. And I like them a lot against Arizona. I was worried, or I was hoping, because the line opened up at Rams -4. I was hoping after this tight game, it would move. But now it's at -4.5. So I don't know what the hell that means.
I don't know. If I were to watch the first 7 quarters of the Cardinals season this year, I would think that it's going to be a 10.5 point spread. But then you watch the fourth quarter and you watch overtime in that Raiders game, and you kind of start to understand why that line creeps down, because it's Kyler Murray's video game.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it in the preview.
It's just like old school Russ, where it's like you want to let him just play backyard football because that's when he's at his best. Like, let everybody come after him. Let him, like, he had like something like 50 yards on a 2-point conversion just from like running back and forward again.
I saw that. Yeah. It's, absolutely ridiculous. It reminds me of the early Russell Wilson days, where Chris Long and Robert Quinn were chasing him around on the edge, and Russell Wilson's just going back and forth. And you could see like Chris Long's red, fiery tattoo up his arm, just like trying to like knife through defenders and trying to get to him. And Robert Quinn like bending over backwards, trying to get to him. And that was just the 2015 St. Louis Rams and Russell Wilson. And history repeats itself with these kind of players. But you go up against a Marcus Mariota. It's a good test for a guy like Kyler Murray. It's a good test with how Arizona runs their offense. Also a tad gimmicky without any of their key players. So there, I think that there's not a ton of reason to panic. Just be thankful that they came out on the right side of it, because the media this week, the negative attention the Rams would have gotten this week, if you listen to it, if you pay attention to it, it would have been flat out demoralizing. The air would have been sucked out of your sail.
Yeah. I just personally, I am confident in this team, and I think this just doesn't represent them. That's all.
This doesn't represent me.
Yeah, I know. It just immediately thought of Always Sunny.
Always Sunny.
But we do have one more thing that we want to talk about, and this is just for us because it's funny because we're both wearing the same shirt.
Yeah.
These what is it? Homage. Got the NFL Blitz Aaron Donald one, and this one was actually a gift. Los Angeles Lakers with Donatello, the best Ninja Turtle.
I think this one is also heading your way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, yeah.
You should get
Homage. Yeah, Homage just has some really cool stuff. It's funny. I think they sent us that Blitz one, but I had this one already in my repertoire, much like Liquid Death, which I just enjoy on my own. So it's kind of cool that things that we just enjoy in our regular life are now coming to us. How about that, Dean?
How about that? And we just need our Los Angeles Rams to match the growth personalities and the trajectory of the podcast as we continue to climb to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. A lot of our luck may have run up last year.
Sure.
But I do not think that we are out.
No.
I still got some leprechaun juice.
They showed me plenty in that game on both sides of the ball. Even Matt Gay, outside of the punter, I thought there was a lot of really good stuff to take away from that game yesterday.
Yeah,
so hang your hats.
The punting is alarming. That's something that will lose you games.
I'll tell you what, though, we're going to really be pounding our chests if they could beat Arizona, and then you go beat San Francisco on the road. You turn out to be 3. It's a big 3-1.
Oh, is that the next one after? Oh,
San Francisco, Dallas, Carolina, and then a bye, I believe.
Oh, so that's tough because those are really those. You could lose both of those games, but you can win both, and then you look great.
And then you got hopefully 2 cupcakes with Cooper Rush and Baker Mayfield. Unless Dak's back, unless Dak's got the thumb.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you guys tons. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the Rams Brothers podcast.
And also subscribe to LA Football Network. But also, like, if you guys leave us a review, we send that shit to each other and we read it to one another. And like, it makes our days. If you guys actually dedicate some time and like leave a review with some feedback, hopefully not too mean, but it makes our day. Like, we do this for you guys, for us. It's a ton of fun. We got t-shirts out of it. We're drinking water out of a can. I'll tell you what, Nick, life is, it's glamorous when you're a Rams fan.
It is.
We just want to continue the climb, as Miley says.
And you know what? Next week, we're going to do a little contest with these homage shirts, particularly the one that Dean has right there. Just got to leave a review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do both those things. You get a free shirt. We'll talk about it. We're going to pick a winner. Not everybody that does those 2 things. I'm not made of money here. But yeah, we'll talk about it during Nick's Picks next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, Nick and Dean signing off with a Whose House, Horns Up, baby.
Rams house. Go Rams. Peace.